From the art of the deal to keeping it real. Live from the Simply Vegas studios, it's The Power Move with John Gafford.
Back again. I mean, not all of us. Some of us are here today. Connel had court lawyer stuff
He's not
to do.
Sense.
I don't know. He doesn't make any sense. He had lawyer and stuff to do, I guess, today. So, you know, man, and he missed out. I got to tell you. You know what, dude? I had an idea, and it sucks that he's not here to hear it. Right? Because
idea.
Yeah, because we call you the Bulgarian mongoose. You're not Bulgarian. You're not a mongoose. I don't know what came to me. It came to me thinking about, I was watching the Saints game on Sunday, and it came up a better nickname for you. You ready?
What's that?
The Money Badger.
Ooh, I do like
Instead of the Honey Badger, the Money Badger.
I like that.
Colt,
I mean, Bulgarian, though, is a strong
It
national
is.
anthem.
It is. But folks, if you're listening to this, don't feel
He's
sad.
like, what the hell?
I know. He's like, what are you guys even talking about? Don't feel bad.
We still don't know.
I know. Because today in the hot seat, we have, man, I'm telling you, I mean, legend, stud, star, phenom is the word I would use.
Great
we are
shape.
Great. Yeah. We are
Great
blessed to have Cody Sperber in the studio today. Cody is somebody that I admire, that he calls me. The phone rings, and man, I show up for him whenever he needs anything from me. And I'm blessed to have him here in the studio today. So, man, I'm telling you right now, if you're one of those people that, of course, you know, if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling like you want to get to the next level, if you're feeling like you just want a little more juice out of the old life, this is the guy, man. This is the dude, because Cody is a guy that I look at and says, this cat's got it all together. You know, just leveling up in every aspect of his life, and never accepts mediocrity of anywhere. I think it's just one of those deals where he just says, I don't accept mediocrity. He has helped, I mean, what would you say, Code? Hundreds of thousands of people?
Trillions
of people. You've got over a million. You've got over a million subscribers to your YouTube channel, correct?
Instagram.
Over a million on the gram.
1.1, 1.2.
Yeah. Helping people learn the game of real estate, man. Learning how to play the game, and he plays it.
Knows what he's talking about, right? That's my biggest pet peeve, right? And there's certain people you can sit there and listen, but you truly, you know what you're doing.
Well,
right?
there's a lot of people out there that are charlatans in our space, unfortunately, that you hear these people like, hey, click on this and learn my course, and I'll show you how I made seven figures.
Push the button.
Yeah, when they never
Magic
made
money machine.
when they've never made anything.
Right.
And you're a dude that you actually do this stuff. You are on site. You are knee deep in it, and you're getting it done. So welcome, Code. Glad to have you, man.
Thank you guys for having me. I also am from the land of milk and money.
I love that.
There you go.
I love that.
Right?
I love it.
We're already becoming best
We're
friends.
connected.
You're
We
already
get it.
connected. There you go. Well, let me ask you this, man, because you didn't just start out being a real estate mogul. You didn't start out with all the stuff you have. So I always have to go back, because, you know, it's real great for people to listen and see people that are super successful. But if you don't see a road for you to get there as well, what's the point? I mean, now you're just window shopping.
Yeah.
We don't want to window shop. We want to put some success on layaway. That's what we want to do. We want to get there and talk about it. So where did you grow up, man? Tell us the story. Where'd you start out?
Yeah, Mesa, Arizona.
Okay.
You know, didn't know we didn't have a lot of money as a kid. Wasn't really even aware of money.
What did mom and dad do?
My mom worked at the phone company. She worked at a bunch of different companies. She was a respiratory therapist for a little while when I was real young, but then she worked at the phone company in like customer service or something. And my dad worked in the schooling business. He like construction colleges, beauty colleges, like ITT Technical Institute type stuff.
Was he a teacher?
Well, no, he was more on the executive side of things, but like helping the owners build their business, you know, so he would be like a operations guy or just helping them build the business. But the challenge with my dad is he always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but he acted like an entrepreneur, but he never was an entrepreneur until later in my life. So my dad would get fired every 2 or 3 years because he'd eventually piss the boss off because he was trying to be the boss, you know, that kind of energy. And but he would make the guy a lot of money, or the girl who owned the business a lot of money, but eventually they get sick of him and be like, you cross the line, you're out. So every 2 years I would move. So I've lived a lot of places. By the time I was 11, I probably moved 20 times or something like that. Yeah, different states, Colorado, Texas, but we always kept going back to Arizona for other family and stuff was there. So
when you were a kid, did you know that like this was a struggle, or were your parents open with you on that, or did you just think this is just how it is?
No, I didn't have any awareness of money. We never really talked about money. In fact, my parents were very much in the mindset of like save every penny, save everything. If I ever asked my parents for anything, they would say, "What are we made of money?" You're right, or what do you think money grows on trees? Mm-hmm. You're right. My dad did do one of the best power moves for me.
I love it.
As a kid, though. I wanted a scooter. This was when I was a little bit older. I wanted this electric scooter, like they're everywhere now, but back then they were brand new.
Sure.
And it was $600 or $700. And I said, "Can I get this electric scooter?" And my dad said, "What are you, nuts? Like, I'm not going to give you $700. He said, "But here's what I'll do for you. I'll help you start a business because I've always regretted not doing this on my own because I keep getting fired and I'm out of control all the time, and I don't want you to have that same experience." So he taught me the best lesson. He said, "Get out a piece of paper and a pencil," and he created a note, and he had me sign this loan note that he wrote up where he lent me $40, okay? And he said, "With this $40, you're going to start a business. What kind of business do you want to start?" And I said, "I don't know." And he said, "Well, what would your friends want that if you did something?" And I said, "I don't know, maybe candy." And he goes, "We're going to start a candy business. I'm going to lend you $40. We're going to go to like Sam's Club or something, whatever was around then, and we're going to buy $40 worth of candy. And you're going to go to school and you're going to hustle and you're going to sell this candy. And you're going to pay me back my $40, and then hopefully you have more money left over and we'll start your business, but I'll give you your initial loan." And I bought Laffy Taffies, I bought all the stuff, and I went to school and I unloaded it all, quarter here, 50 cents here, $1 there. And in the first day, I made like $60. I sold all the candy in one day. And I came back to him and I said, "Dad, I made $60 at school." And he said, "Okay, give me my $40 back."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Now we're going to sign a new note, $20. You're going to take your 20 that you made and the 20 that I'm going to lend you. We're going to get another 40. We're going to go reload." Boom. And before you knew it, I was out of the loan and I had my candy operation rolling, and I made my own $700. Best lesson my dad ever taught me.
That's amazing.
And the only other thing he ever did that is so memorable is my mom put me on ADHD medicine, these little banana pills, Ritalin or something. Mm-hmm. And my dad would pocket it and give me a vitamin instead. He said, "Listen, dude, your superpower is your ADHD. Your mom thinks it's your like hindrance.
Right.
It's your freaking superpower. So take this vitamin. Don't tell mom."
Oh, wow.
And that he did that for me. And I remember that because even though I was bouncing off the freaking walls at school, I always thought to myself, this is my superpower.
I love that story about your dad. And the thing that I found most interesting about when you talk about him was the fact that he would get fired every couple of years for trying to take over, be the boss. And I think it was that entrepreneurial spirit. And I think there's probably, because that was me, dude, there was a lot of stuff in my life where I would bounce jobs early in life for the same reason. I just wanted to be in charge, wanted to do this, blah, blah, blah. And I think some of it became almost self-sabotaging because I wasn't doing what I was made to do. I wasn't doing what I was built to do. And I think that a lot of people that struggle out there are probably in that situation. So I love that your dad was like, "You know what? I'm not happy here. I'm not going to replicate this cycle. And I'm gonna instill this in at an early age." How old were you when that happened?
I was probably 11-ish.
So hustling can't. So that was the first hustle.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely graduated to drugs pretty quickly. I mean, it was a good transition. It was a very smooth transition to weed.
Straight into weed.
Do you think that your dad in a different era, like in this era, would have been just full-blown, super successful?
Well, and and later in life, he did start a business, a VCR repair company, and then eventually when that VCRs went out, he transitioned to computer repair, and that was pretty successful. And then he sold out of that business, retired, he was selling out of that business, and eventually I hired him, and then I retired my parents.
Oh, nice.
But that took me, once I became successful in real estate, I was able to put him on payroll, and that was that for him working. But I think his hindrance was that his dad passed away when he was like 11 or 12.
Yeah.
So when you all of a sudden you grow up and you have to be the man of the house, you have to go get a job, you have to, that entrepreneur thing. And he did tell me a story. He tried to start a business and it failed. and he never went back for the rest of his working career until later. Things like that. It's like I think I'm an entrepreneur because of those little fun lessons and watching him get fired. I said to myself, there's no possible way I'm built for that. I'm never going to be under somebody else's control.
Well, I think it's the time too. I think it was just the timing of it. One of the best compliments I ever got from my dad wasn't even from him to me. He told my sister, he said, your brother's going to be way more successful than I ever was because he's willing to take more risks than I was. And I thought, man, what a great compliment. My dad was
a good compliment.
Yeah, my father's an attorney. I mean, he wasn't, he was a well-off guy, but I just thought that was a great compliment. But I think just the timing, I think risk has gotten to be more acceptable, and people are willing to kind of sling it out there a little bit and see what happens. And I love that for this generation. I think a lot of that is. Well, let's ask a question.
Knowledge? Like, do you think it's people see this now and
it's 50-50. I think it's like how much of it is you can get better information from YouTube or podcasts or whatever else, and how much of it is, well, this dude's 22 and he's got a Lambo on Instagram. Why don't I have a Lambo too? Yeah. How much do you think is which came first, the chicken or the egg, Cody?
I think it was social media. Yeah. I think social media gave everybody direct access to mentors in your pocket on demand. The technology and all that. I mean, like for me, the reason I blew up on Instagram is I was putting out all this entrepreneurial content daily through my posts, through my stories, eventually through lives. And I was so consistent with it that all these entrepreneurs started gravitating. And I would just tell them play by plays, right? Like, this is what to do. This is how to think. Here's how to operate. Here's how to act. And God, I wish I had that when I was trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And now that's why so many more kids are like, you know what, college is BS.
Right.
That it's like your political science degree is goofy. It's not going to get you into the money game and winning in life. And so people finally, I think, just woke up and said, there's a better, different path. I don't have to follow the status quo.
Do you want your son to go to college?
I don't care.
You don't care if he doesn't?
No, I don't care. I went to college and I got straight A's. It was in high school, I got C's and D's, mainly D's. In college, after high school, I went to the Navy. After the Navy, I went to college.
Let's talk about that for a second, because I don't want to skip that, because here you are, high school weed dealer.
Yeah.
And then it's like C's and D's, because obviously I'm guessing the weed dealing has something to do with that. Got maybe a little bit to do with it. So at what point you're 18, you're like, I got to do something. How did the Navy come up?
What happened is I was actually got a job. I went to Mesa Community College for half a day. I tried to go to college half a day. I made it to walking through the campus to towards the class, and then I beelined back to the car, and I'm like, this isn't for me. I'm out.
Yeah.
But I went and got a job selling used cars, and I was the #1 used car salesman my first month, and I made $6,000 in 1 month, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is a ton of money. It was easy. I had no clue what I was doing. I was a horrible salesman, but it was like the beginner, where everybody just knew this guy's not a shark yet. So I'll buy a car from this poor kid. But then the second month I tried to get slick, and my sales went, how
many times have we said that?
You memorize every detail of the car, and next thing you know, you're overselling.
Well, no. What we always saying here, because I did the same thing. When I first got the restaurant business, and I learned somebody's, a buddy of mine was a vice president at WorldCom, and I was like, give me a job. He's like, I can't give a job. No sales experience. He goes, you can either go sell Kirby vacuum cleaners or sell cars. You'll get a PhD in sales either way. So I was like, I'm not selling vacuum cleaners. So I went and sold cars. And the first month selling cars, I salesman of the month, crushed everything. I sold 30 new cars in a month, which is like bowling a perfect game. And everything, and then you get educated, and you never make as much money in the car business as you do your first month, because when the sales manager goes, hey man, that's the best we can do. When you're brand new, you believe it. Yeah. But when you've been there for a minute, you're like, nah, I know he's going to do better. Let's just hurry this up, and you get slick, like you just said. And you try to go from A to Q.
It's like my used car. I was doing used and new, but my used car mentors. One was a guy named Julian. He was from Thailand, and then the other guy was named Max, and he had 4 missing teeth and halitosis. These are my mentors in the car business, teaching me what to do. So that lasted. A second month I bombed. By the third month I quit. But I took that $6,000 and I went and bought a pound of weed, and then I moved in with my buddy Leon, and we were playing video games, smoking weed every single day. By the way, I'm going to pre-frame this story with, I currently don't do drugs. Okay?
There we go.
I'm clean, I'm healthy, and I'm focused, and nothing wrong with that. I would smoke some weed, but I don't. And but back then, I was a early adopter, and it's so
You're on the cutting edge. You're on the cutting edge.
By 7th grade, So, anyways, we're smoking weed every single day, and we would walk. And by the way, I was like maybe 5'6", super short, had not grown yet. I'm like a super late bloomer, and then I was overweight, so I just was unhealthy. I was always a hustler, but very unambitious. Yeah. I didn't have a path. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have like energy to put it anywhere.
You were drifting, my friend.
I was drifting.
You were drifting.
Yep. And so, but we would walk every single day to the 7-Eleven to buy munchies, and we would pass the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Coast Guard recruiting station, right? And so one of the days we were walking, and I said, wouldn't it be funny if we joined the military? My dad was in the military. And I said, wouldn't it be funny if we joined the military? And Leon said, dude, you'll never get in. You can't even do a push-up, a pull-up, or run to the Circle K. Right. And I said, I could beat you to the Circle K. And he said, let's race. We didn't even make it halfway through the parking lot before both of us stopped. We were so out of shape. But it was like a running joke. So anyway, I eventually ran out of money. And I went back to my dad, and I said, Dad, I'm living in this apartment. My stuff's about to get turned off. I need to pay some bills. Can I borrow some money? And my dad said, why would I ever give you money? Like, you don't have a job. You're not going to college. Like, what are you doing with your life? And I said, funny thing, I'm thinking about joining the military. And he goes, that's the best thing I ever heard. Here's some money. Okay. All right. Week or two later, out of money again, have to pay more stuff, show back up. Hey, Dad, I just need a little bit more money. He said, hey, no problem. How's the military thing going? I said, great. We're talking, we're processing. Like I've
walked by them twice on the way to get Cheetos.
We're doing stuff, And he said, okay, here's a little bit more money. I'm not giving you more money though. 2-3 weeks later, I'm out of money. My lights are getting shut off. I come back. I said, Dad, last time I promised I need some more money. He said, okay, but this is literally the last time. Tell me details. I want to know everything about which branch you pick. And I said, probably the Navy, just like you. I want to be like you. And I had never been into the recruiting station up to this point, And he goes, I love all of this. I'd like to meet your recruiter. And I said, I could set that up.
Me too.
And he said, how about right now? Get in the car. And I'm like, oh my God, I haven't actually talked to anyone.
Real.
Yeah, he's really getting me in the car right now.
This is real.
So we go get in the car. We drive to the Navy place. I get out of the car. I beeline to the door ahead of my dad. I open it up. I said, my name is Cody Sperber. For the last 2 months, I've been lying to my dad about joining. This Mexican recruiter, you see him just kind of cock his head, get this shit-eating grin on his face, and he's just like,
welcome to the Navy, son.
Mr. Sperber, I was just at the final stages with your son. We're going to sign him up today. We're going to take the ASVAB, and we're going to pick a career.
Oh, boy.
And I look at him. I'm behind my dad now. I'm like, you motherfucker. I cannot believe this. He closed so hard that day. So, of course, I'm like, how bad can this be?
What else do I have going on?
Yeah, how bad can this? First off, they're not going to let me in. I can't do a push-up. I can't do a pull-up. I can't run a mile. I can't do anything.
None of it.
So he goes, all you got to do is take this test, and then we'll tell you what jobs are available. I said, sure, no problem. Purposely try to bomb this test. A, B, up, down, select, start, left, right. I'm doing the Contra code. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, no matter what, I'm bombing this test. There's no way I'm getting in. And we come back like a week later. He called my dad. He stopped talking to me. He just called my dad. Hey, bring Cody in. So my dad calls me up. We go in. He said, hey, congratulations. There are 3 jobs here at the Navy that you qualify for.
Oh boy.
I'm like, how is that possible? He said, I said, all right, hit me with him. He said, the first job is very important. Very important. You are taking care of the ship. You make sure the anchor and the chains and like the ship and the side and the inside and everything is painted and clean and perfect. And I'm like a janitor? And he goes, exactly like a janitor. And I'm like, okay, what's the second job? And he goes, great job. You stand on the side of the ship. When another ship is passing, you hold these flags and you wave these flags around. It's called a signalman. You wave these flags around. And I'm like, okay.
He's looking at your test like, this kid's going to be so excited about the flag waving. It's going to be crazy.
Like, can I retake this test by now?
Yeah, I know. I'm like, oh my God, this is not applicable to real life. So I said, okay, what's the third job? And he said, the third job's actually my favorite. It's navigation. You tell the ship where to go.
Okay.
And I said, am I up with the captain? And he said, yeah, you are. And I said, is there air conditioning? He said, yes, there is. I'm like, I'll do that job. And I chose quartermaster, and that's how I ended up joining the Navy. And I looked at my dad, and this is the hustler in me. I said, listen, Dad, I asked the recruiter, how long if I sign up today before I ship out? He said, you can go up to 1 year later. I said, Dad, you pay my bills for 1 year, and then I'll go. And he said, I'll give you 3 months. I said, I'll take it. So let's go. Boom. And the recruiter said, listen, I got to be honest with you. I've never seen a kid that can't do a single pull-up or push-up, right? During this 3 months, you got to be able to do X amount of this and X amount of this. So that's how I got in the Navy. And by the way, to this day, do not tell my dad this story because he does not know.
Really?
Keep it quiet.
He's never told
this is between us, right?
So how long, obviously the military wound up being good for you.
Best thing I ever did.
So how long, so you go to basic, I guess? 4
years. Best thing I ever did.
Did you actually get in shape before you went?
No.
Or did you procrastinated?
No. I kind of I was able to do some stuff, but no. During boot camp, my life changed. I instantly realized I was unprepared for life. Mm-hmm. They shave your head. They take your identity. I mean, for God's sakes, there was probably 2 or 3 times, and this is the middle of Great Lakes, Illinois, in the middle of winter, I'm marching while sleeping. That's how fatigued you are. You're just conditioned and brainwashed. Everything is these really great routines, and you're doing these chants, and you're working out all the time. You're working as a team, and they put even the recruits, there's a hierarchy. They would look at you and go, you get a sword and you're in charge of all these knuckleheads. And you're like, cool, give me the sword. Yeah. And as I'm looking at you going, why do you get a sword? I want a sword. How do I get to your position? Yeah. And you learn very quickly that there's a bunch of idiots, like in real life, in the military, that the only reason they have their position is time. They spent time to get to the rank. Yeah. And it makes you really mad inside, I'm smarter than them, I'm better than them, I'm faster than them, I'm more talented than them, whatever your thought process is, but they're in charge of you. So
it's the same process that your dad had when he was getting those jobs.
Yes.
It's the same thoughts he had.
Yeah.
Same thing.
So you start working really hard to build rank real fast, and you try to move up. A lot of the people that were in E5s, which is a second class petty officer, when I got in, you're seaman recruit, which is the lowest level ever. Seaman Sperber. Yeah. Seaman recruit Sperber. But eventually I made it.
Colt's got low semen too, so it's fine.
But eventually I made it to where the people that was originally in charge of me, I was now equal to them within 4 years. That's nice. Something happened in me where I got the drive and ambition.
So you spent 4 years in the Navy.
Yeah, and I traveled the world by myself. Been to 30 different countries. All this great stuff happened. You grow up. I got taller. I got in shape. I started caring about things, my shoes, making my bed, caring about what I look like, carrying myself a little bit different. I started having more self-confidence and discipline and stuff like that. Even though I was still a rule breaker, even though I pushed back, even though I fought the system and I couldn't wait to get out. Looking back now, greatest thing that ever happened to me, because almost all of my friends, juvie or prison.
Yeah. Do you think it was the consistency of what you were now forced to live that was showing up and making you more responsible or building that confidence in you? Because I would like to think that you were going from a place of no consistency to absolute consistency.
Yes. And I think it was the expectation that we demand more out of you. Mm. And then just through a long period of time, you start to operate at a higher level. And I couldn't wait to get out. Getting out of the military is like getting out of prison. Yeah. They punch your hole in your car and they're like, get out. And all that structure, all that system
is in the wind.
It's gone. And all of a sudden you find yourself in this really weird place, which is why that's why when I started my business, I liked it, because I built a system around to create that rigid
structure.
That structure. Yeah. So you came out of the Navy. So what'd you do right when you first got out?
Well, I went and talked to, I wanted to be a marine biologist before going in the military. If you would ask me as a little kid, what do you want to be? I would have said,
the dream.
Marine biologist. Yeah. The problem is I got violently seasick every time I was on a ship, which is
tough luck in the Navy.
You don't realize that coming from Arizona. I haven't ever really been on a boat before, but hey, let's join the Navy. But I didn't want to do that. So my backup plan was a 9th grade history professor or teacher. Mm-hmm. And I went and talked to the professors at San Diego State University, and I said, hey, I'm thinking about being a history teacher or professor. I don't know. how much do you guys make and do you like your jobs? And one of the guys said, I love my job. And the other guy started laughing and he said, I have 2 jobs because the pay is crap. You got to really love this profession because you're not going to get paid that much money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you do in your second job? And he's like, I drive taxis or something. I'm like, I'm out. I don't know if this is for me. Like, that's not my gig. And while I was but the MGI bill pays for your college. So while I was in college, I went back to my only counselor that I knew, AKA my dad. And I said, what should I do with my life? And he said, no matter what you do, as long as you know how to read financial statements and understand basic finance and accounting, you could do anything. So I'm like, Dad, I'm horrible at math. Like, I'm great at money. I'm horrible at math. And he's like, just go get a degree in finance and you'll be all right.
Yeah.
So I went and got enrolled at Arizona State W.P. Carey School of Business for a degree in finance.
That's so funny because we were talking about college earlier, and literally, I told somebody this the other day. In my opinion, the only degree, unless you're a specialized doctor, attorney, whatever, the only thing worth getting is a degree in finance. It's the same. It's the same thing because I deal with so many people that you go in and through partnerships or whatever else we do, and you realize very quickly like these people are very good at a skill that they have that has enabled them to build a business, but they have no idea how to look at a balance sheet.
None.
They just don't know, and it's shocking to me how many people are out there like that.
Yeah, and it was tough.
That's great advice.
And something turned on where I wanted to get straight A's for the first time in my life for no other reason than a personal challenge.
Yeah.
And I did. I didn't get a single. I got all A's all throughout college. Is that summa cum laude? Magna cum laude? One of them. And so anyway, I got straight A's, got my degree in finance, emphasized in accounting. But while I was going to college, something fateful happened. I went to lunch with a friend named Jeremy, pulls up in a brand new Mercedes. I said, how'd you get the car? He said, flipped a house, made 80 G's.
What year is this?
2003.
Okay.
I said, you're full of crap. I said, Jeremy, I know you. You don't have any money. How'd you flip a house? And where did you even get a house? Like, how'd you buy a house? And he said, oh, it's this process called wholesaling. A mortgage broker friend of mine showed me how to do it. And I flipped this house, and I made $80,000. He said, $80,000 not normal, by the way. That's like really a big number.
Yeah, that's a big one.
He goes, normally it's like 10 grand, 5 grand, 20 grand, but this one happened to be 80. And I said, show me what you mean. And he literally we were at lunch, he pulled out a napkin and penciled on the napkin this process of wholesaling. And I took the napkin home with me afterwards, and I was processing. And back then, you got to understand, no YouTube, no podcast, no information.
Nowhere to get this. Yeah.
No online. There was books, tapes, CDs. There was info gurus, like from infomercials, and you would read in the back of newspapers, believe it or not, when the guru would come into town or where he was going to teach these classes. Very limited information online. And so I started looking into it, and I realized there's this world of creative real estate that's out there that nobody talks about. Mm-hmm. And the more I went down the rabbit hole, the more pissed I was getting at myself, because I'm like, how come I never heard of this? And by the time I really started diving in, Jeremy had done a second house, and he made like another 25 or 30 grand. And I'm like, dude, this guy is printing cash, and he's not that smart. Like, no offense, Jeremy. not that smart. Not
Jeremy, if you're one of our listeners, I'd like to apologize. The thoughts and feelings of Cody Sperber do not reflect that of the Power Move. Sorry.
No, smart, but like nothing that you would not be able to do.
Finance degree.
Yeah. Right? And so I'm like, I got to be able to figure this out. So I dove all in, trying to figure this out for 9 months. I went to 15, 20 seminars, put it all on my credit card, laced up $30K in credit card debt, flying all over the country, going to seminars. The gurus loved me. Everybody who did a good stage presentation, I was like throwing tapes. My credit card. I'm like,
give me the DVDs.
Yeah, and I would buy binders and books and all this stuff. And I would walk out with all these bags of crap, and I'd go home and I'd lay them out on the table, and I'd be like, all right, this is good. Now I'm going to get rich. This is how I'm going to do real estate. And all it was information overload.
Well, that's a great point. So you did a lot of ready aim, but never fire. And I think a lot of people do that. And I think a lot of that, whenever people come to work for me, I give them the DISC test, right? Because I want to see what I'm working with, personality trait. And I find people, if you've never taken one, please look up DISC test. Please take this and understand what you're dealing with in yourself, because if you don't understand your limitations of your personality, you cannot overcome them. However, people that I find that have a high C, if they have that high C in the DISC tests of conscientious, those are the people that I need to understand everything that could humanly possibly happen in a real estate transaction before I start, because what if this comes up?
Yep.
And what I'm looking for is people with that high D, high I in sales that are like, fucking figure it out. Right. Let's go. I got to go. We can't sit here.
Yep.
And so many people get trapped by that. And I found that just because you have that high C, if you take a DISC test and you see this, don't be like, oh, I'm screwed for life. Just understanding it, that's part of your personality, and being like, you know what, maybe I don't need to know every single thing that's going to possibly happen. And if something happens, I can say, I'll be right back. Let me go figure it out and I'll come back. So you had 9 months worth of books and DVDs and tapes and binders and folders and everything else. And what finally?
I tried. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was taking action. The thing is with a lot of this, and this goes back to your very first statement of like how many BS informational gurus are out there that don't actually do the business. It's old, outdated information. They're just peddling this crap just to make a buck, and they don't do the business. I would go I was too literal. That was my challenge. Is I would go to page 1, it would say, do this, 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 and this. And then page 2, do this. But by page 3, it's the disconnect started. Like it wasn't real world applicable. Yeah. And so now I'm like stuck a little bit overthinking like, well, why doesn't this happen next? And then I would have to skip to page 25 to realize that was actually what I should be doing. Not, it got all jumbled. And also something about real estate. I was too nice. I was too nice in the beginning. I thought everybody, as a new entrepreneur, I thought everybody wanted to collaborate and everybody was telling the truth and everybody was your friend. And there's realtors, there's title agents, there's other wholesalers, other investors, there's money lenders, there's all these people involved. And when there's big money in a transaction, they have an agenda. Yeah. They're trying to get something done that they want done. And the dance that I had to learn is the persuasion, the influence, the understanding people and their whys and what makes people move, the influence. Mm-hmm. And at first I didn't have that skill. So I was just like, take everybody for face value. And then they would screw me out of the deal or they'd push me around. And next thing you know, they would take the deal and go do it themselves or something. So I was just too naive.
Well, I think that's interesting. Talk about that more, which is, so when you, obviously the best way to get deals done is appeal to people's self-interest. We literally talked about that for 5 minutes last week. So how do you determine when you meet people and you start talking to them, how do you determine what their self-interest might be?
Well, I mean, I think it depends on who the person is, It's like, if you're dealing with, like, for me, if I'm dealing with a cash buyer or another wholesaler, something like, their job description kind of tells me what their objective is. But reading their personality type, there are different personality types. Understanding how to be a great active listener and a great question asker. I used to come and like over talk and almost try to oversell myself because I was so new. I didn't have real confidence yet. I was overselling.
Too much about you and not enough about them.
Yeah. And then what you really realize when you really are good at this game is just become really, I'm two things right out of the gate. I'm enthusiastic and I'm very intentional. So like I have a lot of enthusiasm and I know exactly where we're going and I'm really great at asking questions. Mm. So I instantly am opening you up and trying to understand your hopes, your fears, your dreams, and almost kind of like that. If you had a magic wand, what would you want this to look like? And pulling that out of them. So that way they tell me how to do business with them. And then once I started to understand that, I started to see, and as I made these mistakes where I was so close to getting a deal, but then it fell through. And you're in that moment where you're processing and you're pissed off and you're like, dude, I was so close. And like, I was finally going to make 10 grand or 20 grand. Mm-hmm. When I first got in the business, I wrote on a sticky note, $4,000 a month. That was my big dream.
That was the goal.
I'm not trying to get really rich. I'm trying to make $4,000 a month.
That's your shoe bill now.
Yeah. So it's like, I was just trying to get some deals done. But through that processing, you start to develop this internal compass, this thing that kind of says, this person's with you, this person's not with you, this person has an agenda, this person cares about these things. And I just got better at it. But by 9 months, here's what happens. Your first month in the business, you have all this youthful energy, you're going to dominate, you're excited. Second month, that little self-limiting voice, it just starts talking to you. Why is this taking so long? What are you doing wrong? By the third month, now it's your friends and family and other voices starting to get a little noisier. By the fourth month, you're starting to run out of that immediate energy, and now you're doing the pep talks and you're trying to like re-energize yourself. By the 5th month, you're starting to like really panic because you're running out of money and you're running out of energy, and you've already told everybody all the things, right? That try to keep them on board with you, but now they're starting to like fade out. Yeah, they're like, okay, Cody, like maybe a history professor is a good kid, you know? And so I made it by my 9th month, my inner voice was screaming at me. This isn't for you. It's just not in your cards. Go do something else. You have $30,000 in credit card debt. Your bill is due right now. My parents sat me down at the 7th month and said, Cody, we love you. We'll support you in anything that you do.
Except this.
Except for this, because you need to stay focused on college. Yeah. Rich people do real estate. This is what they said. And this is my dad, my hero. Oh. Rich people do real estate. If your friend did it, he got lucky, or it's a scam, and he's going to get in trouble for it later. Wait until after you get a really good job, you work your way, you save money, then eventually you can buy some real estate and retire wealthy, if that's in your heart.
How conscious are you, not to pivot away from what you're saying, but how conscious are you based on that one statement from your dad, your hero, right? The consigliere of you, if you will, saying that. How conscious are you now of not putting limiting beliefs on your kids?
I literally, my entire parenting systematic approach is to empower him to believe.
To believe whatever he wants.
All of it. Of it. And my son is a beast.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he is going to dominate everything. And I took a lot of what my dad taught me and I implemented it. He got the contract. He got the loan. He got the start a business. And he's done it now 5, 6, 7 times where he's been able to create thousands of dollars, a little kid, in all these different little ventures that he gets into. And it's working. So we never say anything. What am I made of money? Like, we don't talk. Our relationship with money is always positive.
Yeah.
How can we create it? That's a brilliant idea. You're going to love that scooter. What are we going to do together to create that?
How do we create the money?
Yep, that's it.
How for those of you who don't know what wholesaling is, I mean, I'm sure everybody part of this does, but wholesaling is essentially where you put a property under contract with an and/or assignee, and then you assign the contract to somebody else for a fee. Simply, you just take a little finder's fee for the deal is essentially what you do. Now, the problem with wholesaling is this from a realtor standpoint. This is going to be an issue. It's great if you're a wholesaler in Nevada. It's bad if you're a realtor that's a wholesaler in Nevada, because the Nevada Real Estate Commission allegedly is going to make it illegal for you to wholesale if you are a licensee. They're going to make that illegal in Nevada. And the reason being...
That's surprising. You would think it'd be the flip.
Here's the thought. The thought is that a licensee is supposed to do what's in the best interest of the client. And they feel that if you're a licensee, taking a fee when that could have gone to the client ahead of time is not it. Now, I'm not talking bad about wholesalers. That's not the point. The point is, I've always said, I said from the stage at Inman, I said, look, man, you want to be a wholesaler, great. But a realtor that walks in to list the house and winds up taking an and/or assignee and scraping an assignment fee that could have gone to a distressed seller, that to me is wrong.
Got it.
But again, what I do think is that's where you started doing that, right? Mm-hmm. Wholesaling was it. But you are a whiz at all creative financing now.
All of it.
So without skipping too far ahead in the story, I just want to hear your thoughts on this one thing, because I just want to make sure we get to it, because I think this is so important. I think, this is my opinion, I want to know what says Cody Sperber, the clever investor. I want to know what he says. I think the best opportunity we've seen to acquire property in the last 15 years is probably right now buying sub-2 distressed mortgages. I want as many 3% mortgages as I can get.
Why distressed?
I think there's going to be a ton of it.
Why not just 3% mortgages? Why does it have to be distressed?
Well, I just think that there's going to be a lot of people through the recession that are going to get hurt, that maybe bought towards the top of the market as prices recede a little bit, and are going to need a way out.
I buy a lot of houses, sub-2, wraparound mortgages, contract for deed, any of the real creative stuff. And if you don't know those terms, look them up, because it's really a rabbit hole. It's just really interesting, because most people think you got to go to a bank to borrow money. And if the challenge with that, especially if you're an entrepreneur, is the bank crawls up your butt. They want all these docs, all this history, all these things to fall perfectly in line, because their plan is to package it up and resell it at some point in the future to somewhere else. And they can't do that unless they have all this checklist handled. And most entrepreneurs can't qualify for loans, and it's hard to get a lot of them.
Yeah.
So you're limited, and it's just a really tough game and a very slow way to build wealth. Now imagine if you were able to bypass the bank and get the seller to participate in the financing for you. Mm-hmm. And when we talk about creative real estate, there's a whole bunch of things under that umbrella. Wholesaling is one of them. That's a no money down, transactional house flipping strategy. But that's not owning real estate. A subject to transaction is, there's only 3 scenarios that always happen when you roll up to a seller. Mm. They either own the house free and clear, which means that there are certain strategies that work now that there's no mortgage on the property. So they can be your bank. They can seller finance you the deal. Real simple transaction. If you ever want to get into creative finance, just go find free and clear houses and call the sellers and say, do you want to sell? Because if you think about in any real estate transaction, we're negotiating price or terms. And most people focus on price and they don't understand terms. And terms is just creative finance. That's all creative finance is. I'll give you the price, you give me the terms. And so imagine being able to create any type of deal under the sun. When you go to a bank, they want to give you a 30-year mortgage. Well, what if I could get a 40-year mortgage or a 50-year mortgage or a 60-year mortgage from the seller? Mm. What if instead of paying 5% interest, I tier it where I say, hey, I'll pay 5% interest, but 1% on year 1, 2% on year 2, 3 on year 3, 4. By year 5, then it caps off at 5, and then forevermore, it's 5%. Mm-hmm. Why can't I do that? If you say it's okay and I say it's okay and you're the seller, we're in the game.
Well, that's why that's why you asked me why they have to be distressed. Because honestly, as a realtor that's supposed to be doing the best thing for their clients, I love the sub 2 on distress because not only are you getting them out of the problem, not only are you potentially putting some money in their pocket for whatever, if there's a small equity scrape, but you're also fixing their credit by catching their lates up.
I love that.
And getting it done. So you're doing a service for them by fixing their credit as you're doing this and everybody else.
But you got to understand, if I'm giving you the price that you want, I'm doing you a service.
Yeah.
If I'm getting you out of a foreclosure or pre-foreclosure, I'm doing you a service. There's a lot of ways to do right by the seller. That's judgmental. That's perception of who's looking at what's right. Yep. For me, it's either free and clear, or it's got a mortgage on it with a lot of equity, or it's got a mortgage on it with little to no equity. Mm-hmm. What you're talking about is, what if you have a mortgage and you're behind on payments and you owe $300,000 on the property and the house is only worth $300,000? They don't have a lot of choices. They can't list it with the real estate agent because they can't even afford the real estate agent commissions and closing costs. That's a great solution for an empowered agent to know how to do creative finance, to say, hey, listen, I'll catch up your arrearages. I'll put up 15 or 20 grand. We'll stop this foreclosure process. We'll get you back on track. We'll move you out to another place that you can afford. I'll step in. I'll take over your mortgage. I'll make the payments, which is going to eventually rebuild your credit. Mm-hmm. And it's a win-win for both of us. I get a great rental. I bypass a bank, built-in financing, and then you could turn it into an Airbnb and 4x your cash flow. Brilliant for an agent, brilliant for the seller.
Yeah.
The challenge with that is 2-3 years down the road, when the seller goes to buy another property. Yeah. This is where the problems come up. The seller has a normal job, and they go to qualify for a new home, and their mortgage lender goes, well, you already own a home. And he goes, no, I don't. I sold it to John. And he's like, well, John, it's still, the mortgage is still in your name.
Who's John?
Who's John? And why does he have your house? But your mortgage is still on your credit.
And then they go the acceleration clause.
You never know what'll happen then, right? So instead of a subject to, I like to do what's called a wraparound mortgage, which is a brand new mortgage. So the mortgage is in place. Now there's a new mortgage over top of it, and the seller's actually giving you a new mortgage, a new loan, which does not mess with the original owner's debt to income ratio. So it's just same kind of procedure.
So wait, you can't use, because I was told the way I was told on the sub 2 stuff, you can use the payments, like you can use the payments 75% as rental income towards their DTI
after 12 months.
But again,
you have to have history of it. It can't be like 3 months later or something like that. But look, it's just a cleaner transaction with the wraparound.
The wrap.
Okay, nothing wrong with sub 2s. I've done a gazillion of them. Love them. There's just a little bit, I don't want to call it more risk. It's just,
because you'd have to refinance them out.
The question that agents, especially licensed agents and their brokers, care about is, if I'm separating the mortgage from the note, the deed from the note, is that illegal in any way? Okay? Is there anything illegal that I'm doing here by getting a seller to deed me their house but leaving their mortgage in place? And the answer is no. There's nothing illegal. Next question. Is it ethical?
It says in the mortgage docs that they have the right to do that if they choose. It doesn't say they're going. The acceleration clause are most often written that way. What says Cody?
So in every mortgage doc, there's something called a due on sale clause, and it says if you separate the mortgage from the deed, then they can, if they catch you, have the right to accelerate the loan and call it due. So the question of ethical comes back to who signed what paperwork. As me, the investor or investor agent, stepping in to help a seller out and doing this real creative transaction, did I sign anything with the bank saying I would not? No. So from my standpoint, perfectly ethical. I'm helping people solve problems in real estate. Mm-hmm. Now, the original seller, is it ethical for them to do this? Is it ethical for them not to make their payments?
No.
Is it so? That's the question that, like, once that clicks in people's mind, they're like, oh, okay, I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm not doing anything really unethical. Yeah. But what I do tell every seller, do not lie to your bank. If your bank calls you and point blank says, did you transfer the mortgage? Say yes, I did. And you immediately call me and you get me involved because I know how to talk to the bank. I'm perfectly okay as an investor to deal with the due on sale clause because I will have options. I could deed it back to you. Yeah. We can cash it out. There's other options to figure this out. Sometimes I can work it out directly with the bank. So it's legal, it's ethical, it's creative, and it's one of the fastest ways to own real estate, build a massive portfolio, create a ton of cash flow at warp speed as an entrepreneur.
Well, because if you go, like, for example, let's say you take $1 million, all right, and you go put it in the market the traditional way, you're going to put 20% down. So really your buying power on traditional mortgages is maximum $800,000. But if you were to do this, I mean, you could probably lever your buying power to $4 million.
If they do a due on, if they do a due on sale and they call you, do you ever assume their loans, or are you just when you say deed it back, are you taking a percentage now of that equity? Like what if
there's so many ways to do it. We have it in our paperwork that we have the right to choose to just deed the property back if we want. Mm-hmm. That may or may not fix the due on sale part. The lender might say, oh, okay, you moved it back. Cool. They might say, we don't want, it's already too late. We want it. Think about why a lender would call the due on sale clause. If they lent out at 3% and now mortgage rates are at 10%, they want to pull the money back and then relend it at 10%. So you got to be aware of the environment that we're operating in. But normally what happens is that seller goes to buy another property 4 years later. They have amnesia. They don't really communicate with you anymore. You're not good at this creative finance thing. So I keep in touch with every one of my creative finance deals, the original owners. I also have a power of attorney that allows me to do anything I need to do with that. It's a limited power of attorney that allows me to do anything I do for this house. But let's say I wasn't good and I didn't keep in touch with them, and now they're going through a divorce 4 years later, 5 years later. That the divorce attorneys are going to say, where's the assets, where's the da-da-da? And they're going to figure out, oh, this house had all this equity or whatever, magically moved out of this thing. What is it? Now they're sandbagging the deal. They're calling the lender on themselves. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Or they die and their heirs inherit something and they're trying to figure out what that something is. And they're like, what happened to the house? And
you know what burns most people on these is the insurance. Okay. The homeowner's insurance, when they put it back in their name, all of a sudden the bank wants to know. That's what I found triggers, or what I've heard triggers most of those
sometimes.
deals.
So we have an investor insurance company that's very familiar with sub-twos that knows how to, because whenever you take over another person's mortgage, it has insurance built into it. You're just not the insured or the additionally insured. And what can trigger the due on sale clause is that update of the original seller coming off the insured and you going on. And so you could do one of two things. You can either add a second policy, leave the original policy on, but now you're paying for two policies. Yeah. That's not the best choice. Or you can figure out a way to get a new policy on there and eventually get the old policy off, but then make the original seller an additional insured.
Yeah.
So they're still on there, It's just a new policy where you're the main person.
Well, I think, we're getting technical, and I want to go back to your wholesaling, because, dude, you went from just figuring out how I'm going to wholesale with all of your books to building a fucking empire, man.
Yeah.
And I think that's how do I go from a couple of, let's leave the minutia of people. If you're like not interested in real estate at this point or doing this, you're probably like, what are we talking about? Let's get back to this. So you go from the pile of books to doing a couple wholesale deals. You're finally, your parents sit you down, they say, absolutely not. But you push through anyway, and you get something done.
I made it 2 more months.
Before
I quit.
You quit?
I quit. Yeah, I quit. My girlfriend, who's now my wife, she was not having it anymore. My friends were making fun of me. My parents were. I had a deal that was right there on the finish line, and actually, a real estate agent pushed me out of the deal at the last minute, and I lost the money. And that was kind of the final straw for me. And that day, I happened to look at a bulletin board at ASU that was like a job bulletin board, and there was a bookkeeper wanted ad. And I was taking accounting classes and finance classes, and I'm like, how hard can bookkeeping be? It said $34,000 a year, needed ASAP. I called the guy. He said, come on down. I need somebody right away. This was on a Friday. I showed up, look like I'm 15 years old, show up in my dad's suit. I'm like, he's like, you know how to do books? I'm like, of course I know how to do books. He's like, great, you're hired. $34,000 a year, you start Monday. I said, that's the interview? He goes, yeah, you need to leave and come back on Monday. I said, oh, okay. That's how fast it happened. I left, I went to the bookstore, I bought Bookkeeping for Dummies. I read it all weekend long, showed up on Monday, and I'm a bookkeeper. That was it. My real estate business was done. I worked for him for 4 months. Now, he was a house flipper. He was a house flipper.
It's just like the hero's journey. This is it. There it was.
And so he was doing historic renovations in downtown Phoenix in the historic districts.
That's a hard thing to do.
And he was doing these deals, and he had about 30 projects going at one time, and he was raising all this money from friends and family and stuff. So I'm doing his books, and I'm seeing the millions coming in, the millions going out. I'm seeing his Mercedes, and this guy was a doofus, like a doofus. He was such a dick. He was, the typical, like, nice suit, nice shoes, everybody's below me, I'm the man, strutting around town, just the man. And he treated all of us employees like crap. And I remember looking at the money, I'm like, dude, this guy is killing it, and he's an asshole, and there's no way I could not do this business. Like, I'm just getting pissed. I made it about 3 months before I was, like, fed up. And magic happens, sometimes in your life. There are pivot moments in your life. You got to really pay attention and follow your intuition, because one of my best friends at the time got with my girlfriend and said, hey, Cody's miserable. Have you noticed how miserable he is? And she's like, yeah, he's a dick. Like, he's horrible to be around. He's always complaining. He's just nasty. Because I was so unhappy with myself at that time. And he said, I'm going to take him to San Francisco to go to this real estate seminar. You think he'll go with me? And she's like, I doubt it. He's been to 50 seminars. He hates everything about this. So they started working on me, like, go to the seminar. And I was pushing back. And eventually he said, just come on a vacation with me. Like, the seminar's not really the thing. Come on vacation. I said, okay, I'll go. I walked into a Jack Miller seminar. There's about 350 people in the room. I can't explain it other than, you ever been in an environment where all your arm hairs stand up and you just feel like, this is different.
Yeah.
I'm meant to be here.
That's Colt every time he walks in a room with me.
Yeah.
Every time.
He just knows it.
He just knows.
He gets a little real estate chub.
That's it.
But yeah, I just knew. And it was funny because I was looking in the audience, and Jack was up at the podium, and Jack was old at the time, one of the best creative real estate investors in ever to live. And in the audience was all the guys that I bought freaking books and tapes from. And I'm like, shit. I bought from him. Al Lowry, I bought from him. Like, all the gurus were there. And they're frantically taking notes from Jack. And I'm like, Jack is like the guru. Like, this is cool. And at lunch, I'm at the bar, and I'm sitting there, and there's this old guy sitting at the bar, and he's got Adidas sweatpants pulled up to his nipples, this old wrinkly, like, polo shirt tucked into his Adidas sweatpants, and giant, clunky old man Velcro shoes. And he's got this wily hair. He looks like Yoda. And he's sitting at the bar, and I'm talking to him, and I ordered my food, and they're like, it'll be here in 35 minutes. So I'm just chopping it up with this guy. His name is Lyle. And Lyle happened to have a house in Arizona and lived in Colorado part-time, in Arizona in the winter months. And we're talking, and he was the most magnetic, amazing storyteller I've ever heard, next to Jack Miller. And he would tell me these war stories of 30 years of creative finance and real estate, and he called it transactional engineering. And he would say, then I do this, and I cut this income stream, and I sell this off, and I do it in my self-directed Roth in a tax-free environment. And I started with $50,000, and now I have $19 million in there. And I did this and this and this and this. And I'm like just enamored with this old guy. And I'm like, I don't know what is happening here. I fought coming to this thing. You have to be my mentor. Like, you have to be. Like, I've wasted $30,000. I've wasted 9 months. I hate my job. I'm probably going to lose my girlfriend. Like, everything is falling apart. Like, this is destiny. Like, I have to have you as my mentor. And he said, absolutely freaking not. I am not mentoring you. And I said, why not? And he said, you'll quit. And I said, I will not quit. And he said, no, I can already tell. You quit once already. You'll quit. I said, Lyle, it's destiny. You live in Arizona part of the year. Like, I'm meant to be with you. And he said, you like baseball? And I said, not really. Okay, yeah, I guess, whatever. And he said, I'll make you a deal. 3 rules, like baseball, and I'll mentor you. And by the way, and like baseball, 3 strikes. You talk back at any point in time, I'm out, and you're done. He said, first rule is you got to show up tomorrow morning with $10,000 in $5 bills. I said, Lyle, I'm broke. And he said, this is not my fucking problem. I said, okay, what's rule number 2? And he said, rule number 2 is there's 3 rules, 3 strikes. Rule number 2 is there's 3 strikes like baseball, and if you fail, I keep your 10 grand and we don't ever talk again. I said, okay. I said, what's rule number 3? So rule number 3 is on your first deal, you get to keep 100% of the money, your first big deal. After that, I get to pick and choose out of every deal. If I even say one sentence to you, I get to pick and choose what I keep out of the deal and what you keep out of the deal. So not only are you going to pay me on the front end, you're going to pay me on the back end for all your hard work. And I said, geez, man, you're a great mentor. Like, this just sounds like a pleasure working with you. Yeah. But I was challenged, and I was just, for some reason, I was drawn to him. So I figured out how to get the 10 grand.
How'd you get the 10 grand?
I brought it from my dad. My dad, I said, Dad, you need to wire me money immediately. And I need to go to the bank and get these $5 stupid bills. And I said, I'm going to hire this guy. I said, this is better than starting a business. This is all. And he said, I'm not giving you the money, of course. And I said, I'll pay you back $30,000 on your 10. He said, I'm in.
Okay.
I'm like thinking, what's the worst that can happen? I either told my dad, sorry, I can't give you your
bankrupt,
10 grand.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm done. Or I make so much money in real estate, this thing works, and it doesn't even matter. But I showed up and I started working with Lyle that day.
Wow.
We would sit there for hours, and I'm talking about like 7-8 hour stretches at this rickety whiteboard in his stinky house that smelled like old people. And he would just whiteboard out like different scenarios. Like like how I said, if the seller has you seller finance, and then you structure it like this, and here's the 7 levers that you pull. And if they say this is kind of how you start thinking. And then what happens next is you get this contract, hold this paperwork, Cody, And he would just I didn't understand any of it. Nothing, none of it. But he just kept repeating it over and over and over in different ways over a few month period. And finally, around the 2nd month, I ran to him and I said, Lyle, I got a lead. It's the trifecta. It's a bankruptcy, a divorce, and a foreclosure. What do I do? And he said, what do you want me to tell you? And I said, how do I get this deal? And he said, I'm going to give you the best advice. And if you follow this advice, you'll get this deal. And I'm thinking he's going to tell me some wise Yoda shit. Yeah. I'm like, okay. And he's like, lean in. I got you. Come on, lean in. And I said, what's the advice? Like, I'm thinking he's going to do the whiteboard thing. Yeah. You're going to do this. He said, you just got to do these 2 things and you'll get this deal. And I said, okay, what's that? And he said, you just got to be, enthusiastic, and you got to be yourself. And I said, okay, and what, how do I do the deal?
What's that word?
Yeah, and I said, and how do I do the deal? And he said, no, that's my advice.
That's it.
And I'm like, but technically, how do I do the deal? And he said, technically, we're not there yet. Just be yourself and be super enthusiastic. So I went to this guy's house, and the neighbor was mowing his grass outside. And I pull up in my piece of shit Nissan pickup truck. I had never done a deal yet. I looked like I'm 15 years old. I don't know anything about foreclosure, bankruptcy, or divorce. I have 2 contracts in 1 pen. I go and talk to the neighbor. I parked by the neighbor because I was embarrassed because my truck was a piece of shit. I parked by the neighbor and I get out and I start talking to him. I said, I'm going to walk over to this guy's house and thinking about buying it. How do you like the neighborhood? And he said, you're like the 100th person to come here. This is great. He said, just so you know, so-and-so's a cranky old man. There is 0 chance you're getting that deal. It's the first words out of the neighbor's mouth. I'm like, awesome.
And it's showtime. Here we go.
Yeah, this is great. This is starting off well. And I said, why is he just mean all the time? He said, well, he's going through a divorce and yeah, he's pretty pissed off. So I walk over to the neighbor's house, knock on the door, or to the guy's house. I knock on the door. He comes to the door and he like steps out front, doesn't let me in, doesn't open the door, doesn't do anything, just steps out front, shuts the door behind him. And I'm just looping like, be enthusiastic, be yourself, be enthusiastic, be yourself.
Hey, is that bitch that used to live here?
So I just started talking to the guy and I was sweating, I was nervous. And I never really talked about the deal. I never talked about the house. I just asked the guy a bunch of questions. You know, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Did you like this neighborhood? You know, what's it like going through a divorce? You know, I'm a young guy. What advice would you give somebody like me? Mm-hmm. Just talking, just real. And I said, after about 10, 15 minutes, he started to loosen up a little bit. He went from very rigid, very short with me to like starting to open up. And I'm thinking, I made it 10, 15 minutes. This is not horrible.
Yeah. Right.
And the guy started loosening up, started talking more. And then he started volunteering information about the house and all that stuff. And after about 15, 20 minutes, he said, do you want to come inside? And I said, okay, sure. I had never been in the seller's house before and actually gotten this far. And so we went inside his house and he goes, let me give you a little tour. And he walks me around, shows me the things. I said, show me everything you love about your house. Show me everything you don't like. Shows me everything. The whole time he's bitching about his ex-wife and all this stuff, you know, and doing that thing. And I'm just listening and asking. Every time he fed me some information, I just asked him more questions about it and kept him talking. Tell me more about that. Tell me more about that. About an hour in, he's like, you hungry? And I said, yeah, I'm really hungry. And he said, I'm making spaghetti. I said, I love spaghetti. Next thing you know, we're sitting at his kitchen table eating spaghetti. He's crying. He's crying. He went into this whole story about how he got into this divorce situation and how his kids hate everything that's going on, and one of his kids hates him, and da-da-da. And I'm almost in tears. And so far, nothing, no negotiation. No, I know. And I actually said the guy's name, and I said, listen, I got to be honest with you. I am not qualified to help you. I have absolutely no idea how to do this deal. Listen, I've never done a real estate transaction. My mentor, Lyle, gave me advice just to be authentic and enthusiastic. Like, I'd have to go figure this out, but I maybe could point you in the right direction. And he said, Cody, you're the only person that listened to me. Everybody else came here and told me how they were going to buy my house and how much they were going to give me. You're the only one that actually talked to me. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, give me your pen. Give me your contract. I want to do a deal with you. Don't worry about all that stuff. We'll figure it out.
And that was it. The first deal.
Slid the contract over. I ended up, afterwards, you figure it all out. You call the attorneys. What do I need to do? You call the title company. What paperwork am I missing? You call Lyle. Okay, what's the next step? Okay, now I'll tell you. I'm not going to waste my time telling you shit it's not that part of the process yet. He understood the too much information.
Yeah.
He understood if I would get in my own head and get technical and not really connect as a human and build that rapport. Mm-hmm. And so
smart guy.
I figured it all out, and I made $40,000 off that first deal. And that was the day I quit my bookkeeping job.
Nice. How long did you stay with Lyle? How long did that relationship last?
3 years.
3 years.
3 years. And he took, after I got all 40K of that first deal, I probably paid Lyle $2 million after that for his part of my transactions over the next 3 years. And the end part of that story is I got pissed one day because he overreached 3 years in.
Okay.
I did 100% of the work. So a lot of times I was okay with it because he put up money.
Yeah.
And he would buy the deals from me or he would connect me with somebody. So he was like really beneficial. But many times I did 90% of the work and he just took, he would take 10 grand of a 30K thing or 15 grand or half or whatever. At the end though, he took almost all of it. and he would give me like little pieces. And he did it twice in a row. And on the second time, I finally got pissed off. And I looked at him and I said, Lyle, you're just a dick. I don't know what happened to our relationship. I don't know why you think you can just take all this money. I've made you millions of dollars. Who the fuck do you think you are? Like, I am your best student that you've ever had. Mm-hmm. I've lit up. I've done hundreds of transactions with you, and because of us doing this, we have this good thing going, and you're just fucking it up, man. You're just an old cranky bitch. He just starts clapping, and I'm staring at him, and he just starts laughing, and he goes, "Took you fucking long enough." And I said, "What do you mean?" He was
trying to kick you out of the nest.
He said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You've been using me as a crutch for 2 years too long." He said, "I'm sick and tired of taking money from you. You should have pushed me out of your business. You have everything it takes to do this business successfully. From here on out, don't fucking call me. Do the damn deals."
Send me a Christmas card.
I was like,
just send
this
me
guy is like the Yoda of creative real. I'm like,
I don't know who Yoda is, but
that's Colt's never seen Star Wars. Like, Mr. Miyagi, does that help? Miyagi, Karate Kid, can we go there?
But you know what? That's so. I always tell people,
a gangster ass story. Cody.
It was
an
amazing
story.
The way I got into commercial real estate and doing stuff I should not have been at 18, 20 years old is because my mentor paid me shit. He goes, "How much you need to pay for your college?" And that's all it was. But that was the best money ever spent, right? And I think everybody's looking for just a free mentorship or stuff like that. And it's like, you're not going to get a great mentor for free.
Well, that brings up an interesting point, because Cody puts out so much stuff, man, for free, educational stuff for free. So when you decided to start doing that, so obviously business is going well, and you're like, okay, was it a need to give back? Were you trying to build a vertical through the coaching space? Where did that start? I mean, where did that idea start?
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to understand, I started off wholesaling. I did hundreds of transactions, sold a lot of properties to rehabbers. Eventually, you get pissed off because you make 10 and they make 100.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, you just made 100,000 and I could have done that. And Lyle kept telling me, "Cody, you're wasting your talent. You're wasting your time. You need to own the real estate. Stop being transactional. Start being an owner. Cash flow, tax benefits, tax-free environments. That's all that matters." One of the best lessons he taught me is you cannot win the money game saving your way there. It's impossible. Yeah. So all this earned income, it's BS. It's like kind of the rich dad, poor dad. Like, you got to get over to investment income. You got to get over to cash flow. You got to get over to tax benefits. And people that are very successful play the money game different. And so I was transactionally, my first year after Lyle got involved, I made $1.3 million on my tax returns. The problem is I didn't pay taxes along the way. Yeah. I just paid myself, and I bought a lot of cool shit. And the problem with that is I spent all the money, but I owed $600K in taxes. Yeah. And then when that tax bill hit,
that's a lovely.
I was terrified because nobody taught me.
Yeah.
This is what happens to every person that comes into big money real quick. And I'm like, crap. So now the next year I just got to make more money. That's my only plan. I either call the government and be like,
sink or swim, baby.
Yeah, what do I do?
Go.
Or I pay this. And the problem when you're behind on taxes, the penalties are almost as much as you're making.
Yeah.
Like, it's like $20K a month, $30K a month. You're like, dude, this is brutal. And it took me 3 years to unwind from that $600K. It took me, not only did I pay taxes now in real time, but then I was paying the back taxes with the penalties. It was awful. So set your business up financially smart, the right way, and don't take draws. Figure out how to pay your taxes in real time. I had to finally eventually set up 2 accounts, my tax account, my business account, and then I had my personal account over here. So then I was like moving money properly.
Yeah, I think that's a huge mistake that a lot of people make when they start making money, is they keep it in an account that they can see.
Yeah, you have access to.
I tell people all the time, man, the majority of your money should be something you have no access to and don't see every day.
Take it one step further. My wife, my girlfriend, with that $40K, I did a few things. Yeah. I gave my parents some money. That was my give back. I bought a ring for my wife, proposed, right? And then I quit my job as a bookkeeper, and then I bought a Tempur-Pedic bed. That with my leftover change, because I was so tired of being broke and not sleeping well. That was my gift to me. And so, it's like, now my wife sees the money. She's like, let's go on vacation. Let's do this. Like, so it's bad enough when you see it. Yeah. Let hear some else see it. You're just screwed.
Yeah, you got to hide it.
So, but anyway, I got good. Then I finally got fed up. I started rehabbing. My first 4 or 5 rehabs were a disaster. Hired the wrong people. Things got stolen, all the mistakes. But then eventually I found some good team members, and that got going. And then I started making bigger chunks. And then every once in a while, I would cherry pick out and do a seller finance or a sub 2 or a wrap. sporadically until I built like a little portfolio, some cash flow and all that stuff. And then eventually I was now a full-fledged investing operation where I had my wholesale division, my rehab division, my cash flow division, and I'm cranking, right? Yeah. And I needed systems to do this because I came out of the Navy. I love systems. I love structure. And that's probably why people gravitate towards me. I'm a great marketer, great at branding and marketing. And I really nerd out on systems. Like every Saturday for 5 years straight, I did system Saturdays. I would come into my office and I would create an SOP around a process. And I would document every single thing. I'd create videos. I'd create step-by-step tutorials and all that stuff. Eventually, I had VAs doing it for me. But I had this playbook at the end of the year of 500 processes, whether it's sending out an email blast or, cleaning out a property or whatever it was, everything documented. It's the playbook. It's what everybody wants. And then I built a software. I was the first investor in the country to build a software. This is 2008, 2009.
Okay.
That did mass email marketing, mass text message marketing, and mass ringless voicemail marketing. It was called the Mobile Marketing Machine. And I built the software. I thought it was going to cost me $50,000, cost me $500,000. Welcome to the software business.
Software development, no joke.
It's awful. Yeah. Don't build a software, just, white label one or hope somebody else builds it. But I had this software and people were coming to me and they're like, how the heck are you kicking everybody's ass in town? I was out marketing everybody. And it was because of this software and my SOPs and my system. I just had this flow. And so people would come up and be like, I'll give you $10,000 if you sell that to me or you help me with that. Or if you come into my business as a consultant and turn things around. And I'm like thinking to myself, 10 G's for a couple hours of work? Like, you're freaking stupid. I'll do it. That sounds great. I love to teach. I wanted to be a history teacher. So I'm like, okay, give me 10 grand. And the first guy gave me 10 grand. And then a bunch of people were like, I'll give you 10 grand. And then somebody else was like, I'll give you 20 grand. I'm like, you're a bigger idiot than the last guy. Great, give me 10, 20 grand. And nobody flinched because it made them money.
Yeah.
They understood, like, dude, if I get speed, I'm gonna make more money. And they were making their money back in 1 month, 2 months. Then I would over deliver and over consult them and stuff, and they loved it. And so word got around town. And so in 2009, I started Clever Investor as the education software brand, as a little side hustle. I didn't have a big plan. I wasn't like, I'm going to be the biggest information guru. Facebook was just starting, LinkedIn was just happening. Instagram wasn't even around. iPhone may have just came out like a year or two earlier. Like, things were just starting and I was at the beginning of it. But what I decided to do very early on is make video a core competency of mine. And I was scared to death to talk on video. So anybody who's hesitant or you feel like, man, I'm not good on video, or my I smile a little crooked.
Just film it and send
it's
it
like,
out.
you just kind of like overthink and like, oh man, I hate the sound of my own voice. Yeah. I got that little girl voicemail voice, It's like, dang, man, I hate the way I sound. I just said one day, I'm not going to overthink any of this. I'm just going to hold my phone. At the time, it was a flip cam. It wasn't even a phone. And I'm just going to talk to it. I'm going to stand in front of a property. I'm going to pitch the property, or I'm going to talk about building my buyers list. I'm going to give an investor tip. And I would, over repetition, start to get these bits. It's almost like a comedian. They would get their little 2-minute bits or 3-minute bits. When people see me talk right now, it's nothing like 2008, 7, 8, 9. That was me learning the bits, learning the pitch, learning the for each scenario, I had a couple bits. And so now it's like I'm downloading from God. I'm able to just turn on and tell a story or teach. But it took me many, many years of just forcing myself. And I can't tell you how many times I would record a video and immediately, I didn't even watch it. I'd delete it because I was so anxious about
what you just
myself.
did.
Yeah. But you get through it. And it's the best thing I ever did from a marketing standpoint, because I started putting out content when content really wasn't a thing yet. I was one of the first in the country to really put out content. And in the creative real estate space. And what happened is a small tribe became a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. And I started throwing little mini events. And my first event had 15, 20 people show up. My next event had maybe 30 or 40 people. And then the next event had 100 people. And then 500 people. And then 1,000 people. And then 2,000 people. And then 3,000. Like, it just started growing. And it blew up. I had no clue what it was going to turn into. It was like a rocket ship ride. Each year we were doubling and tripling in volume, top end sales volume. And all of a sudden I look around and I'm like, dude, we're doing $25 million a year and online education and software. It was amazing.
Yep.
The problem is I didn't know how to be a person, an entrepreneur that had 100 team members. I didn't know how to build culture. I didn't know how to keep that original high-performing team in alignment with the goals now at a $1 million business, or a 0 to 1 is much different than a 5 to 10, much different than 10 to 15, much different than 15 to 25. Each stage I didn't understand because I had never done it before. And I didn't know how to hire and train and scale high competent teams. So I made every mistake to the point where I woke up one day and I literally felt like I was in a luxury prison. I stopped liking my business.
Luxury.
I stopped liking my team members. The original group they were now going sideways on me because they wanted more money and they wanted more control and they wanted more power and they wanted equity and I'm only sharing this with you guys because for every new level, there's a new devil. And it's good that it's happening for you as you're going through it, because if you can weather that storm and learn those lessons for those different stages, you can become a really great entrepreneur. That I've now owned 7 different companies. They're all, doing 10 million or more per year. I was able to scale these really great, very competent teams. You notice probably even in my language patterns, I don't say employees.
Right. Team members.
I'm very aware of, like, I have entrepreneurs and I'm an entrepreneur and we have a common goal, and the alignment equals velocity. And I really started caring about culture. I started caring about alignment. I started caring about going deeper with my team members to really truly understand. What I didn't know was when Matt's mom has cancer and what's going on in his personal life, because I had this belief system that I had to wall myself off in my office and not have a personal relationship with my team members. And that mistake caused them to not want to work at 11:30 at night to fix the problem. But the second I crossed the barrier, the second I got out of the work environment and I started breaking down in front of them, meaning like we would work out, we would do charitable events, we would do team building exercises, we would go play together, we would do ball games, we would do golf tournaments, we would work out, and for the first time ever, now I'm not the man. They're whipping my ass at the sports game. They're whipping my ass at the thing. And it flips, it creates this environment where the script starts to get flipped, and now they're teaching me things. And it's this bond that starts to form. And now my companies, I don't even know that they're fixing things at midnight. It just kind of happens, and I wake up the next day and I'm like, oh wow, that's amazing. But for a long time, I had lost. We scaled to 25 million. Clever went from 25 to 5. I made every mistake in the book, and the company went downhill, and I lost 60 team members. And I have now built it back up, but I had to pull it all the way back to pull it forward.
Yeah, you got to tear it down.
Now it's lean.
Back.
It's mean. The biggest mistake I made is I cared about top line revenue. It was cool for me to walk up and be like, dude, I did 25 million last year. I'm in the Inc. 500 list. I'm this, I'm that. I'm 4 years in the row. Yeah. Oh, no, nothing. $1 million.
Yeah.
Like, it was the worst profit margin ever. High-end back-end coaching, like you think it's like the magazine subscription business. You take $50K from somebody, they expect the world from you, and now you have a year of delivering, and guess what you're going to do with that $50K the second it comes in the door?
Reinvest it.
You're going to put in more marketing, more team members, you're going to scale the business, and next thing you know, you wake up, and outside things break, and things happen. Facebook broke in 2016. I was the largest Facebook advertiser in the country in my space. 4 to 5 million a year just on Facebook. Cody Sperber ads everywhere. Like, I chased everybody around. It just stopped working one day. I would swipe my Amex card for $500K, and I would make $1 million every time for 4 years.
That's such an interesting point, because I talk about that all the time. And if you look at the way that so many entrepreneurs make money through, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, dude, they can pull the rug out from under you in a heartbeat, which is why, like, honestly, man, like, people ask me about the metaverse, like buying property in the metaverse and shit. I'm like, bro, can't you see Elon Musk just buying that shit and unplugging it just because he thought it was funny? I can totally see him doing it. It's like, dude, that's why I love dirt. I love real estate. I can touch it. I can feel it. I can put my fingers in it. I can put my toes in it.
Yeah.
And dude, and that must have really screwed you up. And all of a sudden, this just wheel that's been rolling downhill forever, all of a sudden becomes a square. that don't roll.
Yeah, and it all started with Donald Trump, the Analytica scandal. Mm-hmm. The second they found out Facebook's selling data behind the scenes, they pulled all of the advertisers. The data started just deleting, but you're still spending money. They're not telling you that they're effing you. They're just effing you.
Yeah.
And then what happens is you spend $500,000 on an Amex. You always made $800 to $1 million back in the same 30-day period. All of a sudden you make $600 back. The next month you make $500 back. The next month you only make $400. Now you're negative $100. Then all of a sudden one day you wake up and you make 80 out of 500 back.
Whoa.
And you're like,
whoa,
we just left $400,000, and you're looking at your team and you're screaming at them in a board meeting. You're like,
why can't you close?
What's the matter with you guys? How are you allowing? And they're like, I don't know what to do. And they're going, Cody, what do we do? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm paying you $150,000 a year to figure this shit out. Like,
don't you wrote the SOP, dude?
Yeah,
it's right here. It says Cody Sperber right at the bottom.
Yeah, but you don't know what to do, and that's when you start to get out of control as the leader of the company. Everybody feels it. And it's a weird, when you're on the rocket ship up, everybody's happy. Dude, it was like Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
We're throwing midgets at dartboards. It's like a fun party environment. Everybody's having a good time. Money's being made. And then all of a sudden it starts flattening out and then it goes down. Now there's clicks and there's conversations and there's problems and you have to fire your number one sales guy. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden your operations guy is looking for another job and you hear about it. And then all of a sudden you get sued from over here and and the problems just start hammering and the environment becomes toxic and then you lose control.
How do you weather that?
Brutal honesty, aggressive offense. You stop playing defense. I went on the offense. I read, oh God, what's the book? It's oh my God, I'm gonna think of this, but I'll think of it here in a minute. Rockefeller Habits. It turned into something. Rockefeller Habits turned into something. What is that something?
I don't know. Colt, you want to Google it for us?
I'll look it up.
Yeah, Rockefeller Habits. Yeah, this book turned into something. I don't have internet here. But anyway, I hired a consultant to come in and kind of audit my company. I stopped caring about top-line revenue, and it used to be top-line revenue, profit, cash flow. I flipped the model. Cash flow was the only thing that mattered. Profit was next, and revenue was last.
Was it scaling up?
Scaling up.
Okay.
Scaling up. Check that book out. If you're an entrepreneur and you're scaling a business, scaling up, very hard to read, very technical. It's like a manual. Yeah, it's like a manual. But they have these consultants that you can hire, and it's one of those things where I understood enough to know that I'm out of control. I need some outside help. I had to put some barriers in. That initial group that you grow with is not necessarily the group you end with. And so I had to make some very key decisions to let some people go, to bring some people in, to slim down the operation. I had to stop some culture building things, which was really difficult. I had a private chef that cooked for us every single day of the week. That was the first thing to go. That hurts culture, but you have to just start
you're responsible.
Start hammering all this cash.
Yeah.
You also have to get real aggressive with your sales and marketing. The only thing that moves the needle is sales and marketing. It's not better operations. It's not better fulfillment. It's not better. It's go on the offensive on sales. Money solves all problems. Mm-hmm. And so I had to start figuring out YouTube, figuring out word of mouth, figuring out referral programs, getting back into the affiliate game, going back out speaking aggressively. I just went on all out offensive. It took 3 years. 2016, 17, and 18, I rode the whole thing down. Slimming it down over time, cutting deals with people to stay around, whatever I had to do to just keep the ship afloat. I eventually came out the other end of it in 2018. I hit kind of like a rock bottom, but I knew it was exactly where I needed to be, and then we just started scaling back up. But this time, continuity, strong continuity, reoccurring revenue. I redesigned all of my funnels. I read all my own copy. If people say, hey, what's one of the best skills you can ever have as a marketer? Copywriting. I write my own emails. I write my own sales copy, my website copy, my conversion, my sales scripts. Everything you see from me is written from me. That's why I sell it so well. It's my
it's your voice.
My processing.
It's your voice.
It's my voice. And if you have an online business or an education business, write your own emails. It changes the game. Dean Graziosi forced me. He said, Cody, you have other people writing your emails. That's not why you didn't double your income last year. And I said, what are you talking about, dude? I don't have time for that. And he said, you should make time for that. That's the number one thing you need to do, because the second it's your voice and it's you're going to sell so much better, and it's going to change the game for you. He said, you're going to be authentic and enthusiastic. And I'm like, okay, got it. Back to the drawing board, coach. And so, and by the way, my email list, I have a 30 to 32% open rate on every single one of my emails.
Wow.
I dominate on that because I write my own copy. But it took a long time, a lot of pain. I lost my number one biggest regret is I lost a guy named Matt Lights. He started the business with me. He wanted equity. I told him no. I told him I'll pay you more money. I told him I would do all these other things, but I was out of alignment with him. He cared about that pride of, I started this business with you. I was team member number one. I don't care about $500,000 a year. I care about pride of ownership. I want to say this is something I built and I own. And I refused to give it to him too long. And by the time he was gone and off on his own thing, and I finally was like, okay, I'll give it to you. Like every dumbass guy in every relationship, it's like when it's too late, they're like, oh, okay, I'm ready. It was too late, and I lost him. And I never forgot that. And I tell him every time I see him, he's losing him. He was one of the best marketers I've ever been around. And, it's unfortunately...
And he's gone on to great things, I'm sure.
He's gone on to really great things. He actually works, he has his own thing, but he's one of the reasons that Grant Cardone scaled.
Oh, he did.
He did.
Do you think that during that time of such a big scaling, do you think you just put people in positions they weren't right? Like I see in a lot of corporations that scale quick, they take their sales guy and they're like, well, you're number one with me forever. I'm going to put you as management role now. And they just keep putting people up, and I see that being a huge, huge mistake of just because they're with you, putting them at the top of instead of keeping them where they should be.
I did get really good at this, and there's a lot of wisdom in that, of knowing what seat of the bus to put people in, right? And being comfortable moving around seats, Right. And now first off, when anybody walks into my building, they know that we're there to freaking win. Right. There is a winning energy in the building. If anybody's negative, if anybody comes with problems with not solutions, if anybody tells me anything that is like even remotely like rubs me the wrong way, I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Right. Like, don't come here with your problems. I'm not your friend. Get out of here. We're here to win. Right. We're here to dominate. You better come here prepared and ready to whip ass. And I also kind of took on like the Elon Musk, like, we don't have meetings just for the sake of having meetings. Yeah. Like, it's okay to get up and leave. If you're done with what you have to say and there's no other value for in this meeting, just get up and leave. Yeah. You don't have to tell me. If you just leave, I'm just going to keep the meeting going because there was another reason we got to do this. But I hate meetings for the purpose of meetings. And I got really good at moving people around on the bus and getting that winning energy back into the building to where, if you have a problem, and because I do love everybody that works for me, after work, I'll go bro out with you. We could go to dinner. We can have a cocktail. We'll cry together. We'll solve problems together, but not while we're in this building.
Time and place.
So you better check that shit at the door, And once I got that energy going, people started showing up different, and they removed themselves from the party. I stopped having regrettable turnover. I had like good turnover. Right.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, dude, I'm not playing full out. I know I'm not playing full out. It's better for me to bow out. And they would actually always do the right thing. And
I mean, that's why
teach the next person.
Amazon or whatever to offer you like $100,000 to quit or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's important.
Yeah. I love that. So dude, obviously you threatened to retire from Clever Summit. You've threatened to not do that again.
I am done.
Come on. Yeah, and Motley Crue's on their 8th final tour right now, so let's leave that up. So what's next, man? What's next for Cody? What's next?
Look, I'm at this point now where God, family, country. What else is important? I figured out the money game. Mm-hmm. One of my biggest regrets as an entrepreneur is not putting my family and God first. I've been working really hard lately to create a better relationship with God. I've been praying every day for months now in developing that muscle. I think it's the glue that's missing in America. I think we've lost touch with our morality. Everybody is operating from a what's in it for me mindset, an instant gratification mindset, because we lost the basic fundamentals of being great human beings and having a rule book of what that means. I'm not a Bible thumper. I'm not going to go around and preach to people. I don't, none of that. But I've been going back to church and just being around the noise and just trying to take it all in. Family, nothing is more important than family. My mom is dying of 2 types of cancer right now. She's on hospice. Every time somebody close to you passes away, it reminds you of just how fragile this thing is and that you can't take it with you. I've had many challenges with my wife, who is probably one of the most amazing women on planet Earth. She's not only a fucking 20, she's not even a 10, she's a 20. The last year and a half, I watched her start to grow. She's been a stay-at-home mom supporting me like a rock for 18 years. The last year and a half, she's been growing her breath work. She's a somatic release breath work facilitator. She's a doctor of physical therapy. She's heart math certified. She's one of the most empathetic. I don't know what the right word is, but she's so in touch with the connection between people and what people need to really overcome their subconscious traumas. And she's
high EQ.
She's a magician, man.
Yeah, she's
a freaking magician. And I'm watching her start to blow up. I'm watching her name get around. I've been connecting her to all these different masterminds and stuff. People's sales are going through the roof if they do a somatic release breathwork session with the members before they do the pitch. So a lot of people are like that run these high level masterminds of entrepreneurs are like, Shannon, can you come in? I'll pay you $7,000, $8,000, $10,000. You come in, you do 50 of my members one day, 50 of my members the next day, and then, you know, I'll ask for re-enrollment later, and all of a sudden my enrollment goes through the roof because people have this experience of like, I not only learned how to make a ton of money, I made all these great connections, but I feel great.
Yeah.
I released something and I'm connected at a deeper level and I have more clarity, more power, more energy. And I'm watching her work and grow this thing and her words getting around what she's doing. And I'm like, it's my turn to be her rock. It's my turn to support her. It's my turn to lift her up. I have a feeling she's gonna be one of the biggest in the country because she's smoking hot. She's very talented and what she does works. So that's kind of the next thing. And I'm very concerned with what's going on in the country. So I've been just behind the scenes maneuvering as much as I can, helping from on, you know, the policies and politics that I think are important, especially in Arizona, local politics and people like I'm really working with Blake Masters. I want to get him elected. Carrie Lake, I want to get her elected. So just different things that I believe in from a political standpoint. And then on the business side of things, I'm just in flow state, man. My real estate business is doing really good. I got 24 rehabs and new builds going. I have 14 new builds, all $2 to $3 million houses. I'm raising money. I just started my first fund. We're going to raise $5 million. It's a debt fund. Mm-hmm. So it's sexy for some people, not sexy for other people. Like if you're a hardcore investor, you're not going to think it's sexy. But a debt fund is, it's a double-digit return guaranteed. So it's a 10, 11, or 12% return, depending on if you lend me money for 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years, and you got to be an accredited investor. So we launched Clever Capital Fund, and I'm just starting to raise money for that. And then I'm really nerding out on the Airbnb thing.
Yeah.
I love Airbnbs, dude.
Yeah.
I want, and I'm here, I'm staying at my Vegas Airbnb. You know, that's a $3 million house, 50-yard line of the Vegas Strip. We're just turning it into an Airbnb. And I love that lifestyle of like, imagine if I have a $3 million house or $5 million house, $2 million house in 50 of the best locations in the world.
And you just travel around.
And they're all your property. You're getting tax benefits. You're getting 4 times the amount of cash flow you would normally get from a normal rental. And you get to travel the world and live the investor lifestyle. So we're building the luxury Airbnb portfolio. I got about 30 properties right now. We're scaling hard, which is part of the reasons we're raising money. Mm-hmm. And Wholesaling, still wholesaling. We, believe it or not, old guys wholesaling. We're probably wholesaling. We do about $250,000 a month in wholesale fees. Not bad.
Yeah.
You know, it pays for the operation, puts a little cheddar in our pocket. You know,
somebody's listening to this like, is this fucking guy for real right now?
Yeah, a little 250 cheddar. I got 2 business partners, which, by the way, the only way I run 7 businesses is phenomenal partnerships.
Yeah.
When I lost Matt and I didn't turn him into a partner, the lesson I learned is when you find very talented, high caliber people and you create alignment with them and they're willing to build with you and they complement you, they're not the same as you. They complement you. I've had bad partnerships where it's like 2 sales guys go off to try to build something. It's like, that's not going to work. You need an operations.
Yeah.
You need an operations and a sales. You need a marketing and operations and sales. Okay. So I've been able to scale my companies because of that.
That way.
Well,
I can tell you, I mean, you know, I think Pace Morby said it the best on our text that we're all on from the summit, all the speakers that were on there when Pace is like, I think I've already made $2 million just from being in this text chain. And I think that is 100% a credit to you and your ability to connect other people in a way that's selfless. There's no what's in it for Cody. I know I got a guy for that. You should talk to him. Here you go. Have at it. See you later. And I think that
there's something to that, right?
Yeah, there is.
Here's the cool thing about that. It's the power of reciprocity. I learned it very early on in my real estate career. If I invite you to my birthday party, now you feel obligated to invite me to yours. And I don't have to ask. I'm in a position now, I'm 18 years deep in the game. I get to meet amazing people like you guys, do business with you guys, hang out with you guys, learn from you guys. And I run 4 high-level masterminds. 4. Mm-hmm. And I lose money on all of them on the front end. Right. I make tens of millions of dollars on the back end through those relationships.
Yeah.
I don't have to ask for anything. I just am a super connector and just try to listen and learn and then connect you with them. And next thing you know, you're inviting me in a big Airbnb deal. And you're like, dude, I got this house here and let's go in. And I'm like, hell yeah. I was just waiting for the invite.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
So I'm hoping that, we could break a little bit more bread together, dude.
No, dude, of course.
We did Clever Summit. You smashed this stage, dude.
Oh,
come on. You're like, oh,
dude, I'm telling you, dude, I watched that back and literally that's never happened to me on stage because I was so fucking worried about what he was going to do. Because I'm like, when I agreed to do it, I'm like, you want to do this? He's like, yeah, no problem. We'll do it. And then I was like, okay, so cool. I'm like, you've done this before. And he's like, no. I'm like, holy shit. Yeah. So I spent a solid like month, like, bro, you're going to be great. 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 And I wrote the pitch, how I thought it should go. And he's good. And blah, blah. I'm just going to ask you questions. You just got to answer these questions. Just follow my lead. You'll be fine. And he's like, yeah, no problem. I'm like, this dude's going to crash. Back of my head.
Worried about yourself.
I'm like, he's going to crash. I'm going to have to fill the whole thing. I'm going to have to explain why he's standing there looking like a deer in headlights. And man, the lights came on and I just was it was, and I struggle with that, bro, for like a solid 2 months every day, dude, every day. I mean, I turned down 3 speaking gigs in that 2 months. Cause I was just like, I was so in my own head about it. Finally I was like, you know what? This is why I'm not in plays. Nobody's asking me to be in a play. Don't worry about it.
Oh, come on, dude. You got the whole looks, the great hair. You got the pitch.
Hair, right.
I know, man.
Well, if you ever need somebody for 5 minutes of ranting about something, I'm your guy.
Yeah, Colt's your guy to rant for sure.
I'll rant about something.
I'll do something next. We'll do another event. It just won't be Clever Summit. And I love the events. I mean, we had a wild part.
That was fun.
Dude, you rented out the entire Hakkasan.
I did.
Dude,
I did.
Who does that?
I did.
Yeah, that's you. That's right.
And why did I do it? Because you fucking called me and asked me to do it.
I said, hey, man.
And what's the first thing I told you? I don't say no to you.
I love that. But did it work?
It did work. It was good.
It was fun. T.I. rocked the house.
Yes, he did.
Great DJ. And people talked about that event for months. I still get DMs saying best party ever.
It was.
And I see pictures and I see your logos everywhere. And I'm like, dude, I love that, man.
Yeah, it was a good party. It was a good party. Well, dude, we got to wrap this up, man. This is how long is hour and 36 today. This is normally, I could talk to you for like 3 hours about this because this is just, it's a nugget after gem after nugget after nugget. We're going to have you back and talk about some other stuff. But dude, Cody, if they want to find you, how do they find you, bro? Where do they find you?
SexyInvestor69, hotmail.com.
That's HOTMALE.
No, I'm at Clever Investor on pretty much everything. I'm really focused. I do Instagram and I do YouTube. And I actually have a podcast coming out, John.
Love it.
So I would love to have you on my podcast.
Anytime.
Yeah,
bro.
I would love
Anytime.
that. The Clever Investor Show, it's going to launch here soon. But yeah, just reach out. YouTube and Instagram, Clever Investor, are my two things that I actually am interacting with people. Like, I love to comment. I love to DM back. I like to engage.
Yeah.
I actually shut off all other social media. Like, it's still out there, but I'm not personally
not there.
on it. No. And there will come a day, and I can't wait for that day. We're going to celebrate that it's all gone.
And you just shut it all down.
I'm just done.
You just shut it down.
I'll do my last sayonara post,
and that'll be it.
Ride. Yeah.
And sail off into the sunset. Well, folks, I hope you guys got as much out of today as I did. And remember, if you're watching us on YouTube, give us that little like and subscribe. If you're listening to us on whatever podcast service you are, give us a 5-star review or 4 stars or however many max stars they can get. I don't know, there's a random star system, whatever it is. And remember, guys, if you're going to move, you might as well move forward. See you next time. Hey, it's John Gafford. If you want to catch up more and see what we're doing, you can always go to thejohngafford.com, where we'll share any links that things we talked about on the show, as well as links to the YouTube where you can watch us live. And if you want to catch up with me on Instagram, you can always follow me at thejohngafford. I'm here. Give me a shout.